Well, hello, and welcome to the final installment of our investment project videos. Um, Hopefully you have your sheets in front of you. You did need to download a new activity sheet 3, and then we have our newest charts. Welcome to today's world. You are now here, and I imagine some of you are pretty darn rich. I want to talk about a couple issues that may happen. I want you to know that this is number 4 sheet, and these are our opening prices. If you happen to jump online today and look at these prices, you'd see that things fluctuate quite a bit. Like you can watch them go up by cents and down and up and down. Hopefully most of you went up. However, if you did purchase Chesapeake Energy, which I was hoping at least one of you did, you'll notice right here that it's down 100%. And so what that would mean is that you just have to kind of zero out your total investment, whether that was $1,000 or $2,000 or some weird number in between. You don't have that money anymore. Another issue we should talk about is what if it says 0? So if I look at my commodities, if you'll notice, silver is at 0. That's 0% growth. And so what that means is the same amount of money that you put in, it just hasn't grown at all. So again, if you put in, let's say $800 into silver, it's still at $800. You do now have to take the time looking at the sheet to deal with what you've dealt with for the third time in a row now. Obviously, name the ticker, your original investment, look at the final column to determine the percent of increase or decrease, determine current value. And you have to do that for all the stocks or commodities that you own in order for us to gain what is our current today. You're either very rich or maybe in the barrel amount of money. And obviously, you would take that total portfolio as you've done before, and you would name out in this part 3, 6/3/2020, you'd name your principal, that's the 10,000, you'd name your current portfolio value, and as you've done for me many times, you would determine the percent of change. And that's going to be an important number. But right now, after all that, I want you to just kind of do a little bit of reflection. So in letter C here, what you're going to do is you're going to just tell me what you think. Like, how's it feel? Did you make a lot of money? Did you lose a lot? Did you invest in things that you already knew were going to make a lot of money? Whatever the case, you can write me anything you want. And if you want more space, you can write on the back. I don't really care. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I never do. I never do ask for them, but here, I'm asking for them. Then the last, which is kind of a new thing, is I need you to determine the average yearly percent growth. And we're going to need this for our next activity sheet. So what that means is you're going to take this thing and you're simply going to divide it. Let's say I had a percent of change of 89% in the positive. All I would do, I would divide that by 10 because there's been 10 years, which would clearly give me 8.9%. That means that my portfolio on a yearly basis, on average, grew 8.9%. And that's going to be really important. We're going to need it, as I said. But I'd put in here 8.9%. To the nearest tenth, please. Whatever they give you to the nearest tenth. I mean, unless it's like a whole number percent, then just give that. Now, you might remember why we're going to use this, because we're going to, in activity 3 sheet or activity sheet 3, we're going to use compound interest. And you will need a calculator at this point unless you have the next 20 years to do some calculations. So compound interest, I'm going to write the form here. C equals P times 1 plus R raised to the N. And again, we've talked about this before in prior videos, and you will see this formula in different ways. The C represents what your current balance would be. The N, if you remember, is connected to the number of interest periods. Now, this is in 10 years, so we'll focus on that in just a second. You're actually not going to be putting in 10. We know the R is the interest rate. I just determined that mine is 8.9%. And then we know our principal is 10,000. That hasn't changed for anyone. Now remember, the N is the number of interest periods, but what I want to do, if you read it, says the last part of this project is to predict what your portfolio will be in future years ahead. So you want to determine the value of your portfolio in 10 years. That's 10 years from the start of it. So instead of putting in 10, we will be thinking about, well, after 10 more years, that would be 20 years. So you'd actually be putting in 20 for that. And that's what you'll see me do the work on. Then as you move on 25 more years, well, actually that would be, so we'll be putting in 20 for our number of interest periods, and then 35, and then 60. And this is where you'll definitely need your calculator. So what do we do? Well, here's the first setup. C will be my balance at the end of these 20 years from the start, back 10 years ago. $10,000 my principal, 1 plus, and then that's my 8.9%, put it into a decimal form. And then as we mentioned, we are going to raise that to the 20th. And you don't need your calculator yet, but you put C equals 10,000 times, and then you could add these together without a calculator. So that would be 1.089 raised to the 20th, and this is where you need your calculator. And again, yours, I mean, I have an iPhone, that's what I use, and yours might look slightly different, but hopefully you have enough experience with yours. But you should have it out now, and then what you're going to do is you're going to plug in that 1.089, and then you're going to do raise. So mine says like it's in the middle top-ish. Mine says X to the Y. I hit that X to the Y button, and then I plug in my number of interest periods of 20. Now, you should maybe be practicing right now, because when you do on this number, you'd end up with this kind of thing. So I'd rewrite C equals 10,000 times, and I'm going to put some decimals going down here. So 5.5024. This number goes on for a long time, so I'll just put a dot, dot, dot. Then do not hit C. Don't hit erase. At that very moment, hit times, and then hit your principal of 10,000. And at that point, I'm going to come up with this, which I'll round to the nearest cent, 55,024 and 69 cents, which I'm pretty happy about. Then I would fill that in right here. And then I would realize, oh, wow, that's pretty good. Hey, what about 25 more years? Well, that's when you're going to be punching into 35. And then you'll do it one more time. How about 50 more years? So when you guys would be about 60, no, like 65-ish or so, right? So yeah, you'll be plugging in the 60, because remember, this is from when you were 10 years ago. And then you'd put that in, and then you'd be done. Done, done, done. Done with Mr. Mirror. Although I want to have a party with you guys next week, okay? We're going to have a little awards party, and I will be missing you then. If you need me between now and then, make sure you send me all your stuff. If you've already sent me stuff, then you don't have to like resend or anything. But if you're someone who kind of scans, groups things together, you can do that. But I do hope you've enjoyed this project. I know it asked for more work than usual, and it wasn't very social, unless you guys were like joining Snapchat groups to talk about it. I don't really know how that whole world works. Maybe someone's done a TikTok dance about it. That would frighten me. But I know I did already my cry goodbye before, so I won't do it here. Take care. Bye.